What is going on, comic fans? Welcome to the Legion of Comics. It's Sunday night. That means this is At Week's End, the spoiler-filled look back at this week in comics, movies, TV shows, news, all that stuff. Special week. It was the finale of a long-running show for a streaming service. We're going to dive into some of Star Trek Discovery tonight with extra panelists because I'm no help at all when it comes to this. But let's get into it. Joined as usual by my co-hostess with the mostest, my partner in crime, my main man, my pots and pans, Sector 2815.
What's going on?
Just living the dream. Had an enjoyable weekend off from work this weekend. It was nice. It's been very eventful and very fun.
We will get you your Starfleet Academy badge yet, I swear.
I'm going to put it right here, right over my heart. Definitely get into it. But obviously we're not going to, Paul will have no fun talking Star Trek if I am supposed to be helping him do it. So, of course, back by popular demand, the Star Trek man himself, the admiral of his own fleet, Mr. Aggressively Relaxing.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me back.
What is on your background tonight?
Is that Romulan ale?
Yeah, Endorian Blue.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an actual bottle of Endorian Blue. I have not cracked that I was given.
It is good.
Oh, really? That's great.
I've had it.
See, this is why we get Aggressively Relaxing on to help out. See, look at Paul. He's already like a kid at Christmas already. Say hey to some of the people in the chat. We're going to dive into some stuff for the week. What is going on, Las Crucias? Good to see you in here. Mr. Cliff on Comics. We got the Heart. Hashtag We Are Legion. And he is a channel member. That is important. Don't forget the next big channel member appreciation night will include a first appearance of Deadpool, original art of Deadpool, and a lot of other stuff that I have not shown off yet. What is going on, Pop's Attic? Trev the Shipping Guru, Dr. Von Hoot, good to see you. Hoot, hoot, hoot. Glad everybody's popping in. All right. Before we get diving into anything right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and go around the horn like I do at the front end of the show. This is a Guess That Key week. Paul, fill us in.
Okay, this week on Guess That Key, we have, besides Mr. Mark, we have making his return to Guess That Key after way too long an absence is Superpower Review or Karate Kevin 67, whichever you know by Kevin Vidina will be there. And making their first appearance will be Dan Blue Hellion Comics will be there as well. Nice. Wednesday night, 9:30.
And what's happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow we have, after 1 week off for the holiday, we are back with DC Comics Deep Dive. We will talk about Superman number 14, and we will talk about, what's the other one that we're talking about? No, I can't think of it.
Power Girl? No.
Oh, Titans number 11.
Yeah, Titans.
Yes. One of them is House of Brainiac, and then the other one has implications for Absolute Power.
So. It's going to be big things. Aggressively Relaxing. What do you have that people can check out?
Well, I always have a back catalog of my various things. Like I have right now, recently, I've been really re-releasing my ideas for vampires in the Marvel Universe. You can see a short I recently put out, which is a commercial for the idea that in the Marvel Universe, obviously, like garden and home sections of like Walmart would have things like steaks and holy water, garlic garden starting kits, like all the things that you would need to keep, because vampires are just a fact of life in that world. So that's something I recently released, and you can check that stuff out.
Sounds good. I wasn't ready for that. So there's been all kinds of stuff that happened this week, all kinds of cool announcements, some unfortunate ones, some really exciting ones, and we'll get to some of those. But we're going to kick off tonight talking Star Trek Discovery. It's a television show that's originally streaming on Paramount Plus. Everyone has their own streaming service, and I think Paramount is one of the top ones for sure. Obviously, everyone thinks Disney Plus, Netflix, Max, but Paramount is for me especially quickly got up there. Like I think I've had it for about a year now. It's me and the wife both spend a lot of time on it. They have fantastic stuff. They have a lot of original programming too, and this is really, I think, my first time diving into any of their original program. Mainly because Paul every now and then mentions Star Trek stuff with so much enthusiasm. I say, I got to check it out. I got to check it out. Well, I finally did. And I checked out the final show of a season that ran for 5 seasons over the course of 7 years called Star Trek Discovery. Before we dive into the finale, though, does one of y'all want to give some kind of context, lay the groundwork for this show's existence? When it is, what it's about, blah, blah, blah.
Well, when it is actually 2 different time periods because
Yes, that's why I wanted y'all to explain this. Where it starts, where it ends is not the same, which is
correct.
Super cool.
Correct. And it actually was the marquee show that actually Paramount Plus in its original iteration known as CBS All Access, that's where it started. And it was kind of the thing that they put out front to say, hey, come and join CBS All Access. We'll have new Star Trek content. But yeah, it was originally set prior to the original series, and Aggressive, correct me if I say anything wrong, but it was originally set before the original series. And what happens is at the end of season 2, because of what happens, it makes a huge time jump to the 31st century. And
now,
then,
does it do that, just for context? Does it do that at season 3 when they change captains? Because it started with, I don't know the actress's name off the top of my head now. All of a sudden, it started with one captain and it switched to, was it Michael? Captain Michael?
Yeah, Michael Burnham. Yep.
At season 3. So did it switch with the time jump?
No, it actually switched at the end of season 1, I believe. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, Discovery's gone through all sorts of captains.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, like, when did the time jump happen from being a prequel to being a far in the future?
Oh yeah, like Paul had said, there at the end of season 2,
right,
is where you see it go into the 32nd century, and our characters are thrown into the furthest we've ever seen in the canon of Star Trek. So they start at kind of like the beginning where Kirk is around, and now they're further than we've ever seen.
Right. And as there was Michelle Yeoh, who was the original captain. She's killed, and then there's another captain who ends up being from the Mirror Universe. He ends up dying. Saru was a captain for a little while, and then Michael Burnham. So, if by my count, Aggressive, that they've had 4 captains, right? And then they also had Pike for a while. Pike was the captain of Discovery for a while too. So.
That's right. The most popular show to come out of new Star Trek is probably Strange New Worlds. Either Strange New Worlds or the more comedy like cartoon series Lower Decks. And Strange New Worlds spun out of Discovery. It's where they introduced Captain Pike, who is originally the captain we meet in the very first pilot of all of Star Trek. And it's like the beginning of nerd culture of people being like, oh, I got to know more about that guy. They ended up bringing him back in later seasons. And that is something you see actually like Family Guy make fun of. He's a famous character that ends up in this kind of like cylinder that beeps once for yes, beeps twice for no. And it's horrifying. And you see that a bunch of different shows have stemmed out of the time of Discovery, which started during the TOS era, which is Kirk, and like I said, has gone all the way into the future. The furthest we've ever seen, which is what you watched, the episode is the furthest we've ever seen in the story of Star Trek. And it touches on probably every series that they've ever had in this finale. So I'm really interested to hear you going in cold, what your opinion of it.
I went in super cold, my man. Like, all right, for context, I've seen plenty of random episodes of the original series of the Next Generation, very few episodes of Deep Space Nine, because that was on as I'm growing up, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, along with the Next Generation. I have not seen a single episode of Enterprise. I'm aware of it. I'm familiar with what the cast looks like, kind of thing. I can point it out mainly from selling movies and TV shows for years of my life. I know what the box sets look like, so I can recognize it. But that's it for me. Other than, and I'm gonna do my damnedest to stay away from it. But other than the modern films, the Kelvin universe. Now I've seen like a lot of the movies, the original films and stuff. But we're talking TV shows. That's all I got.
See, now some some knowledge of Enterprise would have helped you at some point during this episode.
And now I did a little bit of post research, and wow, what a cool thing. And we'll get into that. I don't want to spoil it yet because so apparently, all right, let's just get into it. So I'll try to synopsize because that's all I'll be good for tonight during this discussion.
And you are so good at that, though.
We start the show off, and this is one thing that I would like to actually be able to bring something to the conversation. When we start the show off, the Discovery, which is the Enterprise in this, for us lay people, that the name of the Enterprise in this show is the Discovery, but but the Discovery is in hot water. They're in space, in deep space, right next to two singularities, two black holes that look like they're straight out of Interstellar. And next to one of these black holes is this something floating in space. And now this is where like this episode had started the previous episode. They're after what's called progenitor technology. The progenitors are this race of something that are responsible for seeding the universe. That's a callback to Next Generation episode when they learned about it in this throwaway episode. So they kind of called back to a throwaway episode and built on it, much like you see done in comic books when a good writer will take a little nugget from the past and give it so much more story. That's what they did in this. And the good guys and bad guys are racing to pretty much this progenitor base of operations, to put it easily, because there's this technology there that they're all racing to get their hands on. And production wise, I was mind blown as soon as this shit started. So in my mind, I just told y'all where my timestamp ends in like the late 90s with those budgets, those special effects. And then I just came over here and I turned on a fucking Christopher Nolan television show. I don't normally cuss on this stream, but that's how much it blew my mind. I'm like, yo, what am I looking at right here? Like, so it was insane. So they're racing to this technology. I forget how to say the name of the bad guy gang. They had a word for them.
The Breen.
Breen, yeah. I kept thinking of the crab people from Aquaman.
Which, by the way, before you go on, the progenitors have actually evolved a little bit. They developed noses. They didn't have noses in the Next Generation.
Well, we haven't seen all the progenitors. Maybe that was just a big
That's true.
Yeah, I only saw one dude in Next Generation. We see a chick in this one. So maybe the dudes don't have noses and the girls do.
Yeah.
Action. Yes. Action. Yeah.
And to the show's credit, that production level definitely is not, just because it's the final episode. Discovery has really, really brought it. I have like my problems with it. I'll get right up front. Like the thing that I hate more about modern Star Trek production more than anything else is that someone installed flamethrowers for some reason into like the bridge of all these starships. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's constantly flames. Like,
yeah,
like I don't know what that's all about.
And I could it like they borrowed them from like a monster truck race or something,
right? Yeah, it's very reminiscent of like a monster truck
design. Yeah, so they're racing to this, and the Captain Michael
Burnham,
another B word, Captain Michael B, not Jordan, and the leader of the Brine Kingdom.
The Breen. Well, she wasn't the leader. There's a bigger thing. There's this whole war going on within the Breen. They have what they call Primarchs, and there's a whole bunch of them who are vying to be the Primarch. And so she basically, on the Dreadnought ship that she was on, she basically killed the one that was on that one in the last episode, and so she has become kind of like the captain of that ship. But she's not really the head of the Breen. Although everyone on that Dreadnought has.
I want to go ahead. There's something because we were talking about the captain of the USS Enterprise Discovery here, the leader of the Breen, this lady. There's something I want to just go ahead and put out there and just get it out of the way. This show has to be the flagship show for anti-woke culture targeting. This was the most woke show I have ever seen in my life on flat. Well, no, absolutely not. I mean, I get what you're saying, but that's really stretching it. Now, stay with me here. I've said this 1,000 times. They checked every box that exists when they made this show. That makes no bearing whatsoever on if it's good or not. There's shit out there that does that all the time, and it's some of the best stuff you can see. And there's stuff that's out there that they do that too, and it costs them the quality. This finale, I've only seen this episode, it didn't harm it one bit. So if you watch, if like, again, Phil, no, because like, no, it's just not, that's like people saying, well, X-Men's always woke. No, X-Men's always relevant. There's a difference. But there's a difference between Kirk kissing the first like black woman on television and them sitting there having like a super woke orgy on screen or something. There's just a huge difference. It becomes distractingly apparent that you're trying to check boxes instead of tell a story sometimes. This show has to be the lowest hanging fruit for people who hate the whole woke thing. But I don't know if they watch to the end if you're going to hate on this finale, because again, I've only seen this one and I thought it was fantastic, even though you can see the boxes being checked. So I think there's like, I praise Alan Scott Green Lantern all the time. They handed him boxes and he gave you gold. So I don't know how this went or how this was received fan wise, but it looked like, man, this thing's going to be like target practice for angry people on the internet.
Yeah, I don't really think it gets too much. But I mean, I don't read a lot of stuff. But one of the things is that actually hews very closely toward Gene Roddenberry's original concept for Star Trek, and that it is there is very little in the original show. There's very little conflict among the people on the Enterprise at all. And there's also something, it's called IDIC, which is called Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations.
I don't give a crap.
Which she mentions, but Burnham mentions it on the last episode.
We're gonna get to that too, because this technology thing, that's one of my like WTF moments that I need context on. Real quick, Dr. Von Hoot says, I pretty much mirror Mark's Trek knowledge. I'm tempted to give it a watch cold as well. Just watch the finale. I know that sounds crazy. Just watch the finale and be like, yo, this is what they're giving us. I'm in.
I really stand by this season as a great place to jump in. Yeah. That first episode, they do a feat with the starship that I think will bring you in.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about feats with starships. Did you see how this episode ended?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Checking boxes has to feel organic to the story or people get turned off. That's anything. Yeah. And all right. So, and I also ran this conversation by people who are boxes, to say it completely insensitively, and they co-signed this. Like, yeah, like it's not doing anybody any favors if you're leaving the quality out of your project. Like, you know, don't include me in your project if the quality's not there too. You didn't do me a favor. But that's my mindset of it. Like, I definitely think representation is important, and you better do it with respect. Like, all right, now we got that off the table. So if anyone's watching this on the rewind, I know Star Trek can be a hot button. I agree. You can see it everywhere. That being said, I thought this finale was freaking awesome. All right. Yeah. They're in it. They're in it.
Yep.
Yeah. I
that's the cover. Now, I feel
pride flag. Yeah.
It's an interesting place you took the conversation. And I think I have some interesting stuff to say about it. And like to frame the bigger thing, I don't think I did a good job at the beginning of this of what's going on here. Just to recap, everyone, what's happening in this season is that in Picard's season one time, we find out the Enterprise goes along in a race with all of these other different races, and they show up to a planet and they find out that Romulans and humans and Vulcans, all of the humanoid species that we know and love from the world of Star Trek, they're all brothers and sisters. We're all seeded from like the idea of the I forget what it's called, the Johnny Appleseed theory. That the idea that like one race, another parent species went around and just like put all of these different seeds, and then different things grew up different ways. On Earth, we grew up the way we were because we have our atmosphere. Klingons live in a more harsh atmosphere. They came up the way they are, but we're generally the same, background. That's was like a random episode, season 6 of TNG. And like you said, we never talked about it again.
So what you're telling me is we're looking at a cover of incest. Got it. Keep going.
It was a big thing too, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, that was a big, bomb drop in the world."
It's a big nugget just to blow past.
Yeah, and they're like, well, that's just that. So it's to Discovery's credit and to Star Trek as a whole's credit right now, and a lot of their different storytelling, and you're seeing them kind of trying to wrestle with some of the big ideas that they've put out that would be in conflict. Like how many all-powerful gods are there? They can't all be all-powerful. Are they in conflict? So like recently they've been trying to deal with those things, and that's what we see in this season is that the people who originally found this, the very smart people and the different species who worked together on trying to unlock the secrets of the progenitor, they did. And it was in, like Picard's time, 800 years before. But when they went and talked to the progenitors, they found out, they decided, like, we really are not ready for this. Not with the turmoil in the galaxy. We should create some sort of scavenger hunt that tests a person to see if they are the type of person who could wield this. And this is what our heroes find, and that's what the whole season's about. And like we're talking about here as the spoiler in the last episode, we found it.
Yeah.
And it's the what seeded all of time. So I did want to set that all up, but like really clearly for everyone who's what we're talking about here. But to your point about checking boxes, what's really interesting about this season is that one of the boxes they checked was old white guy, which I thought was really interesting. So like in the very beginning, you see that her second command's a guy named Rayner.
Is that the dude with the ears, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess he's a guy from Battlestar Galactica fame.
Yeah. He was one of the 7 Cylons.
The actor, you mean the actor?
Yeah, the actor, Callum Keith Rennie.
That's a blind spot in my own nerdness, but I heard a lot of people were psyched about him showing up because he brings a sort of bona fide of like, hard ass, beloved sci-fi guy. And he seemed to me this whole season to kind of be the part of the audience who's been watching Discovery and going, with a sense of like, these guys, it's all, feelings and not really trying to get the job done. And like kind of bringing and speaking out loud criticisms of the show to the show and then them winning him over. I have kind of seen that this season. I don't know if you agree, Paul. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But I felt like that last character.
I agree. At the beginning of the season, when he takes over as the first officer for Burnham, he starts calling in all the different members from the crew and everything to give them. They have like so long to do a presentation to them and to tell them about themselves. And almost every single one, after like 10 seconds, he just dismisses them and says, "Okay, you can go." Because he doesn't really have those interpersonal connections. And by the end of the, I'm not convinced he's not going to be in Star Trek Starfleet Academy. They almost kind of hinted at that. Tilly said some things about how he would be good to be bringing up the next generation, for lack of a better term, at the Starfleet Academy. Yeah, and everything. And she was like, actually, I think they were on the bridge when she said that. But yeah, he basically learned. He learned what he needed to learn from everybody, but he also learned that it can't just be what he expects out of everybody. He has to be able to do what they expect of him as well.
Yeah. DVH season 5, episode 10 is the series finale.
Yep.
All right, you want to cut back into the show real quick?
Sure.
No, Ag, you good?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's, and then the other thing is the Breen. What's very interesting about the Breen is that is a species that Star Trek fans knew nothing about for what must be 2 decades now. Yeah. And then they bring them back. And what was great about it is throughout this whole season, we've been hanging out with Maul and Locke. Those are the girl who's the villain, and then the guy she's trying to bring back. And Locke.
How did he die? That's a massive question I have. So our main bad guy girl, her motivation for getting to this progenitor technology is hopes that it can resurrect her dead
lover,
husband, boyfriend.
Yeah, they were a Bonnie and Clyde throughout the season.
And how did he die?
He hurt himself in an effort to save her. And I'm trying to be friendly to YouTube, but essentially he OD'd.
Yeah.
By in an effort to be a distraction, and didn't make it.
Mhm.
Although he got the job done. He helped Maul achieve her goal, but he didn't make it. And even though he didn't make it, the fact is that they were married, and that means a lot in Breen culture, giving her some semblance of power in that world, at least as like something that could be used by the other people in the faction of Breen. So that's what allows her to, even be a part of like the command structure of the Breen, is that she had married this guy who had run away from everything, and like I said, the Bonnie and Clyde throughout the galaxy with this girl Maul. And now she's desperately trying to bring him back with the power of the progenitors. It's a Hail Mary for her, but she's being driven by passion. That's the whole idea.
So you have her driven by passion racing into this abstract construct that's right outside the gravitational pull of this black hole. And you have Captain Michael B. Not Jordan of the USS Not Enterprise going in at the same time. They're racing to it. And it's really cool. Going into it, you get the fantastic special effects of entering this abstract construct. And then when they get inside, we're now on the set of Interstellar. And what I mean by that is you're dealing now with like fifth dimensional constructs and stuff. And where Christopher Nolan is a genius because he actually sat down with scientists to do the best way they could visually interpret fifth dimensional constructs. And it looks like this show learned from stood on the backs of those that did the work ahead of them, which is smart because they get inside here and you get their interpretation of it to a degree. You have all these cube-like structures and varying places and spots that they're walking through, like this pathway, able to enter different points in time and space, it looks like, just by going into them. It was very, very interesting. What did y'all take away from just the visual representation? Y'all have waited this whole season to get all these clues and to make it to this place. And once you got there, where were y'all head at when we entered this place?
Go ahead, Nate.
Well, I've been really, when they said they were tackling the progenitors, I was scratching my head like, okay, it's your funeral. Because, like, what do you do, right? You guys have to go answer the idea of who or like how life began and canonize that. And what's interesting is that they're using well, I guess this is the big spoiler. They kind of use it to say no, actually we're using this whole story was to say that episode back where we said that all of you were made by one race called the progenitors. Actually, no, there's more to that. It's more ambiguous than that. The big questions of time and who are we and where do we come from are bigger than what was laid out in that
I
one
love
episode.
that they inserted the philosophical concept of infinite regression into the episode. I thought that was great. Because we're jumping forward here, but when we have the conversation with Captain Michael B. Not Jordan, we have the conversation with the progenitor, and the progenitor makes a statement like, someone invented us, someone created us. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I think we do have to jump ahead to talk about that, to talk about what this room is. And
jump ahead. Here, I'll do it real quick. Once we're inside this place, you have Captain Michael B. Not Jordan going into some of these little cubes, having to fight off some of the Bream. Is that right?
Breen.
Right.
Yeah, Breen. So you get some cool action scenes. You get to hop in these different worlds. Just for a second, you stay right by the portal, but so like she hops in one and it's like dark, deserty looking with rocks and a massive storm blowing. So you get some cool action shots, and then she comes out and she comes face to face with the bad girl, and they have a little fight there, and they basically like, look, we're gonna have to enemy mine this if we're gonna do this. Like, you're gonna bleed out to death. You don't know the way. Let's get there together, and we'll see where this takes us. So they do that. They get to the point inside this place that they want to. They find the technology. It's a large circle-like pad with 3 paths that lead to kind of like I don't know what it's called, like it's like a round table in the center,
Mhm.
and it looks like there's some triangles. This was kind of corny, to be honest. So the table with freaking triangles on it and a light under it. But the bad girl knocks her out and tries to turn it on herself to get the tech. It kind of doesn't go great for her. Then the captain gets up, gets her off of it, and then activates it the proper way, because you had to activate it via solving a riddle of moving triangles into a shape.
It was in one inside of the many, basically, was kind of basically what it was.
Yeah.
And so the first girl, Locke, tried to put it together one way, and that was, although it fit the riddle, it wasn't the correct thing. And then Michael Burnham, Michael B. not Jordan, figured out
I'm
how to
actually
do
writing
it.
their names down right now so I can remember it.
Figured out how to actually do the puzzle, and then that activated it, and that's when the progenitor ends up coming along as well.
Yeah.
You know what sucks is I totally was going to, in my head, the solution was doing what Maul did. I would have
Me
been
too.
just
Me too.
electrocuted. Yeah, it was the larger negative space idea that Michael, saw didn't work on,
But how basic was that for such an abstract, high-end production? Like, just think of little, like my kid has these little magnet toys, like they're just shapes with magnets, and you can put them together and make structures or shapes. They're just triangles on a table that if you put them together, you can make a big triangle. Or if you just put all the ends together, you just make the shape of a triangle with the abstract ends facing out. I mean, it was massively simplistic for such an advanced thing to be standing in. Like it seemed like it just stood out to me, like it's just watching, like that's what they did. This is it. Like,
But think about it this way: if you're the progenitors, okay, if you do the first one, you're basically 9 different things coming together to become one, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other way is one thing in the center that has 9 different points on the outside. So you're one thing that becomes many, as opposed to many things that become one.
Yeah, that's my point. It's super simplistic. Like I completely get it, and I don't feel like I should have got it. I should have been like, oh wow, that was smart. Look how she figured it out. But like she kept stressing to us on the way there, like thinking outside of basic, like put these together. Well, I would put them together like this. So the only other option is just putting the ends together. There's only 2 options.
Right.
The way that my 4-year-old would, or the way if I had to pick option B, like go with option A or B, and it was B. Like there's like
totally gonna try
Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade moment when Locke put them together. I'm like, you've chosen poorly.
That really was very.
Like, is it going to melt? Like, what's going to happen? Is the earthquake going to happen? I was waiting on the Indiana Jones moment, and it happened. She just got electrocuted. I'm like, yes.
Well, I guess we can talk about that because, like, what yes, there's fights that lead up to this, like a little bit of action, and one of the cool things we see is that these hallways are doorways to what seem like every world ever. At one point we see them on, I don't know, Mustafar. Like there's all sorts. Who knows, right?
They went to Camino with the rain and the storm, and then they went to Mustafar.
So it's like a cool place that is, it is very simple. It's just a bunch of doorways, and it's great because when we go as Michael Burnham, as our the person we're watching, she gets to go to another pocket dimension and speak with the progenitors. It's the lady who looks like the person that Picard and them had met 800 years ago previously, and they dropped the bomb on us that like, oh yeah, we don't know who made this either, we found it. It was like that when we got here.
Now this is the part where the frying pan hit me. Paul, you know what I mean by that. This is where the frying pan hit me. I'm like, people are gonna baptize the show over this. The progenitor's goal was to diversify the universe. Their ultimate goal was to create diversity. And I just face palmed. I'm like, come on, guys, you're gonna make. That was just that didn't catch off guard, like diversity.
No, I mean, if you understand anything about Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, that's one of his biggest things.
Yeah, like he's the guy that started this whole woke thing in kind of like Western culture as a very simple to understand concept, a place and a time when we no longer need anything and we're all just friendly to each other.
Right.
So
The
like
Klingons were
I get that.
created.
Now
The Klingons were
let's put it
created to be
in
the Soviet Union in the 1960s. They were
now
created
let's
to be
put
the
it into
Soviet Union.
context. They're at the point of this conversation, her crew is being chased down by an army. They're trying to save existence or whatever. They're next to a black hole. She's getting this this ambiguous technology that they only call the technology and have no clue what it does. One's trying to use it to bring her love back to life. The other one's trying to, I don't know, save the universe. And they're told it makes diversity. Like that was, I'm
See,
like,
I
what?
was more bothered by but I wasn't bothered by that because
What?
again,
It
because of
didn't bother me. I just thought it made no sense.
to me, what bothered me more is that when she finally comes back and she sees Locke, she says to Locke, "I can't bring him back," and she just gives up. It's like okay, it's like she spent like the 9 episodes doing everything she possibly can to bring this guy back, and all she had, and all Burnham has to say to her is, "I can't bring him back."
Maul
Well,
did roll
she
over.
tells her that the technology here can't bring him back. She's like, cool.
Yeah, exactly. That I was more bothered by that because that to me just didn't play like the rest of the season had.
No, but you have an interesting point, and it goes to what Michael kind of says and what they end up doing ultimately with the technology, and kind of speaking to your idea that, like, well, that's a really simple idea of how to use this. You make a triangle, and basically all the doorways are, like we were saying, is just doorways. And the idea is that whatever this was meant for is done. Like they made infinite diversity on the Federation is what this thing was trying to do, is make a whole bunch of different people, and now all those people work together in the 32nd century. There, like I think that is the beautiful thing they're trying to, the poetry of the show is that Michael recognizes, oh, we did it. Like sure, we're in conflict now with the Breen, and it's not perfectly there, but whatever the use of this thing is now, it doesn't matter. At best, it's a fun doorway machine.
She literally told Abe Sapien, like, we're just gonna throw it into that black hole because we've been diverse all along. I'm like, what? Yeah, I'm telling y'all are wondering how, like, just a person going in cold watching it, like that was just like it was a MacGuffin the whole time. There was like who cares if you throw it in the what? There's no reason to throw it in the black hole or not to throw it in the black hole. It's literally useless. There's nothing important or not important about it at this point. It's nothing. It's literally a nothing burger at that point. I'm like, ugh. But that being said, the stuff all around it was fantastic. Like we hadn't even got into like the chase scene and like the send off. Like I don't even know these people, and I thought that was a beautiful send off.
It was a beautiful send off. It definitely gave me we're copying Lord of the Rings homework a little bit.
Yeah, because it did last forever.
Yeah, a lot of like kind of like brighter lighting, almost dream lighting in some points of people.
Yeah, I will
laughing.
say it had like the light flares like J.J. Abrams style too. I thought that was a good touch, much like Superman and Lois did with that show. They clearly mimicked some of what worked from like the Man of Steel tone and style. I can really feel like the movie tone and style's influence on the show, which I think is a super big help for people that might not have been riding along since the beginning and are just getting into it kind of thing. But just to catch everybody up again, she learns like the whole technology, it's a diversity machine and that it's useless. So when she gets out, like her chief scientist officer or the Dr. Bones of this show, the guy on the cover right there was excited that they got the technology, and she tells him like it's actually nothing. We don't need it.
Well, no, she says it's because she's the one that would have the technology. She says it's too important to have one person who has this technology, who understands it, and has the technology.
Yeah, but it's not though. That's the thing. I mean, I know she said that, but it's not. That's where it threw me off. Like that's where I'm like, then I was literally scratching my head. Like your machine makes diversity, but we've been diverse all along and we're good. So now we don't need the machine. But then they're saying it's too important, but you just told us how it's not because we've been diverse all along. Like he pointed out, we may be battling this and that, but you did it. We made diversity. And so she throws it into a black hole.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
Which I thought was
kicks it right out of the Lagrange point, which is a great.
I thought that was pretty cool. She's like, we're going to send it on the other side of the event horizon. We're going to assume that the people that made this can make another one, or it'll be okay. Either way, go. I thought that was pretty dope. I like the little argument that the scientific mind and everyone, the knee-jerk reaction, that was great. First off, I didn't expect to see Doug Jones in here, and you can the second I saw that guy, that's Doug Jones, and I looked it up like,
Jones.
Doug Jones, he was awesome, super cool character.
From
he looks disgusting.
He was from Hellboy.
I mean, legitimately
been holding it down for
disgusting.
5 seasons.
Yeah.
It was so hard to look at. Like that makeup is just gross.
Yeah, man. Action Saru. They gave him one episode where he was out of the makeup. Poor fella.
Yeah.
Like, dude, his mouth is like, I'm like, oh.
You should have seen him in the first season. He had these tendrils that came out of the back of his head.
Yeah.
Whenever he was scared.
I'm tempted to go check it out now. But yeah, they throw it in the black hole and they head home. End of the episode. There's 47 more minutes because it was an extended episode, right?
Right.
That's right.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So she meets back up with her crew that was holding it down, protecting her inside the abstract construct. And there's a cool fight. You know, they're being chased, unbeatable odds, and they're having to figure out how to survive it. And they fly through like the plasma field and shoot some photons back there to light up the whole field to take out the army behind them. It was super cool. Meanwhile, the big spoon on the cover there, he took a ride with a guy who looked like Hawkman to take a shuttle out to hit the abstract construct with a tractor beam to help. I don't know. What were they doing that for?
He's not actually. He went in to try to see if he could get her out if they didn't get on their own. Gotcha.
They're pretty much they flew close to the abstract construct, hit a tractor beam, and just held fast.
It's funny you mentioned the guy who played Hawkman because although he wasn't in this episode, he does play a part in something that happens in this episode.
Right. Yeah, I can't wait to get to that.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Also, there was Tig Notaro. Did I see Tig Navarro in this episode?
Yeah. Literally Reno, baby.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, there's Tig Navarro. Why is she only in a second of this? Wait a minute. What
she's been in other episodes. She's hilarious. She's great.
Yeah, they don't ever
in real life. Yeah. I know my comedians. I know that.
Yeah, Tig's amazing in Star Trek.
Yeah,
and she said recently in a interview that she really wants to do some more. Like I have a thing where I want to pitch to IDW because like there's Carol Kane. She's in Strange New Worlds, and she plays a alien that kind of like lives forever. So like, oh man, she's still alive. We can get Carol Kane and Tig Notaro in the 32nd century doing some, techno-babble engineering. That would be the greatest show ever. But yeah, the cast of Discovery is amazing. There's a whole bunch of really cool people in there. Yeah, and it is funny that you bring up Hawkman because the PS to this whole show actually came out, 3 years ago, Paul?
2019, I think. Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 years ago probably now.
Yeah, so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So all right, so what has happened? Because there's a bunch happening in this episode.
Yeah, so we threw the abstract construct of the progenitors into the black hole, made the decision that it was the right thing to do, grouped up with the crew, and started heading home. And then at this point, it kind of gets into the Fairly Wells of the series, which I thought it was very nice of the show to do I don't want to say a drawn out farewell. I think that they took the time to do what needed to be done. As somebody who I get into television shows, like there's one thing that I worry about, especially like with Superman and Lois, we're on pins and needles. Are we even going to get a proper finale? With Stargirl, when they announced its ending, we're betting on Jeff Johns being smart enough to not let them ruin Stargirl, and he was smart enough not to. We got a proper finale, so I appreciate immensely a proper finale, and I felt like they did everything they could because I did see a lot of fans were super duper mad that this was this got canceled. I don't think canceled is the right word. I know it's the technical word, but 5 seasons on a streaming service is longer than most things. So I don't know.
Yeah, but Star Trek, most people think that every Star Trek series should have 7 seasons because that's Next Generation had 7 series. Deep
That's
Space Nine had 7 seasons. Voyager had 7 seasons. That's why they were pissed when Enterprise only had 4 seasons. So,
But this is streaming. This isn't
oh,
television.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah. So
Yeah,
maybe this is going to be the new benchmark because we know the more it goes, the more they have to pay out to
right, exactly.
the
Yep,
returning characters and stuff. And streaming services don't have money like television companies have. They just don't,
right.
despite being television companies.
So like my grandpa wrote for the very first, like the part of the letter campaign to get a 3rd season of the original Star Trek.
Right.
There's a big long history in the world of Star Trek where it's the fandom that started doing conventions and meeting up and dressing up. And then it's the, it's the fandom that started being really, really annoying to parent companies to get what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So like we continue that tradition always proudly, no matter how many seasons an episode of Star Trek or a season of Star Trek or a show, we will always complain and demand more.
That's fair. But I think it's a funny time to be complaining and demanding more. Not for you. I mean, I expect it of you. But when there's, what was it, like 4 series going at one time right now? Or 3?
A lot of Trek.
Yeah, there's still season 3 and season 4 of Strange New Worlds, and Lower Decks, which I'm surprised they're stopping that because to me that to me seemed like a no-brainer, but that's only getting season 5 as well, and then it's stopping. There's Star Trek Prodigy, which used to be that. I mean, that's a whole other story that it used to be on Paramount Plus, and now it's on Netflix. So who knows what's going to happen with that after season 2 comes along. But yeah, it's and then Star Trek Starfleet Academy will be the new one. So
well, there's Starfleet Academy, which people are saying, and that has actually been. We've got casting news from that. We got Holly Hunter, which is wonderful. Her as a captain. If you guys don't remember her,
and I'm sure Tilly's going to be on it. She's got to be.
I hope Tilly. I hope Michael Burden shows back up.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of that character. Yeah, but Holly Hunter, that's Mrs. Incredible. The senator that
from Batman versus
Luther gave tea to.
Yep.
Yeah, that one.
Grandma's Sweet Peach Tea.
Yep, she's going to be the star of Starfleet Academy, the new episode.
Star Trek is the worst. Got it. What is going on, Beckerman?
It was great about Holly Hunter showing up. She's continuing the proud tradition laid out originally by DeForest Kelley of redneck accents in space, and I love that.
If we have British accents in space, why not? I'm for redneck accents everywhere, to be honest with you. I can understand it a lot better.
Yeah,
chronologically, it started with Trip Tucker, though.
Exactly. Commander Tucker is from Florida, and he's the guy who fixed the engine on the Enterprise. If you've never watched that, the Enterprise is a wonderful, wonderful series that also only got 5 seasons, and there's a huge callback at the end of Discovery to that series.
So let's start getting into that. So they make it back home. Like that's where we're kind of at. They're like, what do they do after
no one died? I was so surprised.
Yeah, everyone gets back home except for Locke's boyfriend. He's apparently still in her wrist because we don't ever see what happened with that.
Patter buffered.
That too.
Yep, exactly.
But, they I guess they lock up. Like they talk about that. They got the bad guy and like, what are we gonna do with her from here? And they said that this character has requested that he have her. And that's the Easter egg character that Captain Burnham goes to see.
Who has been in other episodes, too.
Yeah, give us some context to the man with the horn-rimmed glasses.
Yeah, so he is, I believe he's Commander or Commodore Kovic, who is basically... He hands out what's called red directives, which are the reason why Burnham gets involved with them too, is because of what happened between season 2 and season 3, where suddenly now you have this, 1,000-year jump or whatever. They are basically people out of time, out of their original time. And so she goes back to him to say, I've done what I needed to do with the progenitors, because he's the one who gave her this particular assignment. And so she goes and she says, I also know that probably even your name is probably a red directive. So who are you really? And he says, my name is Anders. Sorry, Daniels. My name is Daniels. I've
Of the
been
USS
of this
Enterprise.
enterprise, among other things. And we see there's a panning shot. We see just before he says that, we see a bottle of Chateau Picard. We see Geordie's original visor. And so, but the Daniels part goes back to Enterprise. A big part of the Enterprise overarching story was what's called the Temporal Cold War. And Daniels was this person that would work with Jonathan Archer as part of trying to fight back against this temporal Cold War. But you could probably explain things much better than I can.
Yeah, this is really, really cool callback. The idea that Daniels, who used to serve on the Enterprise J, right? And that is in the far future. He was from not as far in the future as we're seeing in Discovery, but way far in the future where they were dealing with time travel and trying to regulate it. And he was essentially a time cop who had to deal with going back and hanging out with the very first captain and protecting him of the Enterprise as he goes on his historic original mission that would see us become friends with all of the different species in the galaxy and go off to
And
meet
that's
them.
Scott Bakula, right?
Exactly, yeah. Scott
Bakula. What was the name
Bakula.
of him as a captain?
Jonathan Archer.
Archer.
Yeah, Captain Archer. And an interesting thing about Kovich is he's played by David Cronenberg, the director who did like Scanners and stuff. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his work.
The Fly.
Yeah, like he's body horror kind of king, and he's a huge Star Trek fan, so he was very excited to get to be a part of this. And
he had one hell of a screen presence, my man.
Mm-hmm.
He had one hell of a screen presence. It's like when you get what's Warner Zerhog when he pops up and stuff like in Star Trek.
The Mandalorian.
Yeah, dude, he takes all the air out of the room just naturally. You're just like, do something, perform. I want to see it.
Yeah, read the phone book. It'll be great.
Yeah, please. In reverse, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Yeah, Cronenberg is great, and so he kind of alludes to the idea that he's still fighting the good fight in the temporal Cold War, which has had stories and comic books and video games all made around this character. So much lore I could go into.
So that was like, did y'all like jump up for joy when that happened? Was that like a moment?
When he said Daniels, I was like, hey, yeah. And as soon as I saw that, I knew something was up. As soon as you saw the bottle of Chateau Picard, it's like something.
Yeah, he had Cisco's baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Cisco's baseball. Yeah.
I for a second there when I saw they're doing this reveal, I thought he was Wesley Crusher.
Oh yeah, okay.
That was my guess, was that he was going to be an old watcher.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that Daniels is awesome. That's great. Yeah, this is what he's up to nowadays. The temporal Cold War continues, and Daniels is up to,
he's Van Damme, time cop. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
First movie I ever saw Bush in. I'll always remember that. I'll always remember that.
You never forget your first.
Never forget your first.
That's great.
They do that big reveal. They wind down the mission. They pretty much say like this, all this information about their progenitors, the technology that creates diversity that's useful but useless. They said is going to just be left there. Nothing will come of this storyline. They close off the storyline by what's it called? Red booking it.
Oh, they closed the Red Directive.
The Red Directive.
Red Directive. It's like Black Ops for Star Trek, basically. Yeah. So they pretty much put it on the Black Ops book. So it's there if anyone in the future, far future, whenever wants it. But as far as needing to be addressed or needing to be picked up, it's good. They closed it off nicely. and with that beautiful Easter egg there. And then we move on to our we time jump from there, right, to old age. No, the
Exactly.
wedding. The wedding is
The
next.
wedding, right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
go
we
to the
see the
wedding
wedding
of
of
Abe
Saru.
Sapien and Spock's mom. Doug Jones is an alien character, and a Vulcan lady who I'm unfamiliar with the Vulcan lady. If
Yeah,
what
she's
part?
just a high-ranking,
Yeah.
random Vulcan that we meet in the 32nd century
Yeah,
from
she's
early
like in
on.
charge of the Federation or something, right?
Well, when the president was not around, she was acting president, but she basically is not the president.
Vice
The woman,
president of the Federation. Got it.
right?
So they apparently had a situationship that at the beginning of the episode I did watch the previously on thing before it, and apparently she like because we were talking about last week how Vulcans in I hate to bring it up, but how Vulcans in the Kelvin universe had a little bit too much emotion for y'all. I'm like, yo, there's a Vulcan right here. My first exposure to the television show, confessing her flat love to Abe Sapien, about to get married, and y'all were telling me that my favorite Star Trek stuff, the Vulcan had too much emotion, but I'll let it go. I told myself I wouldn't bring it up tonight, so I'm not going to.
It's not that they don't feel emotion; it's that they control their emotions.
I just wanted to poke the bear. I just wanted to poke the bear.
And if you recall, she also said, well, you wouldn't have seen this; it was an earlier episode, but she said that it was perfectly logical for the two of them to get married.
I was about to say, I did point out they were very flat. She couldn't be flatter. It was, but yeah, you see the end of their wedding and you see the crew and everyone happy and just kind of walking around, talking to each other, saying their hellos, kind of little line drops of what these characters will be doing beyond the show. Like the red-haired girl who worked on the bridge said that she's looking to start like a juniors program kind of thing, and other smaller characters are in groups smiling and getting arm pats. And then not Hawkman comes walking in. What's this character's name? He's important.
Book.
Like Book?
He's actually Booker, but they call him Book.
Okay.
Well, Michael B. Not Jordan calls him Book, even though his name is Booker.
All right, so Book comes walking in, and he's not dressed in Starfleet stuff. This guy looks like the Han Solo of this series. Who is this guy? I need context.
He's a courier.
Mm-hmm.
A space smuggler, you said?
Exactly. He's the first person who Michael Burnham meets in that time period, and she proves herself useful. They end up kind of teaming up, go on a bunch of adventures, and then when Discovery catches up to the 32nd century, catches up to their captain, who had gone into the future first, she has become friends with this guy and maybe more. And as we discover, yes. And then they break up. And then we see, a kind of will they, won't they of this season too.
Yeah, they have that flirty vibe. Like, we clearly like each other, but you say it first kind of vibe. You know what I mean? Like,
right, because they're again in an earlier episode, Michael Burnham goes into and she has this whole scene with him that he's not aware of because it's really not. I mean, it's him in her mind or whatever for the most part. And so she, over the course of like 2 or 3 episodes, she's trying to tell him exactly what happened in her mind, or in this, that she had. And then they say, but also he is also, I believe he's the last member of his planet, so he's kind of like a Superman too. Except for he finds out that this Locke person, she actually is also from that planet. So earlier in the season, so he has a connection with Locke, and that's why he kind of also was trying to help Locke and make sure that she wasn't killed.
There's some of the last Quasions.
Yeah.
But they have a little flirty moment of goodbye and everything, or what I was thinking was goodbye, but it wasn't, because from there it kind of fades out and it fades forward because they retired their mission. It looked like the Discovery, the ship, was heavily damaged. So I don't know, was this the last mission? Like they're done flying together. Like they don't have another mission. Everyone's going their separate ways. Why is it that they all already know that they're going their separate ways at this point at the wedding? You know what I mean? They're all, what will you do next? Was this discussed beforehand that this was it for the Discovery? This is all we got. This is our last mission, or why why was
After
this
everything that the Discovery went through, I'm sure there would have to be some sort. It would be in space dock for a while anyway, if nothing
Okay,
else.
so all right, that's what I was wondering. So the Discovery was heavily damaged in
Right.
that
Yeah.
dogfight and everything. They made that abundantly clear. They talked
Right.
about
There
it.
was
Her
flame
first
and everything on
concern-
the bridge, so that's not good.
Yeah, we talked about the flamethrowers. When she came out of the progenitor technology to the shuttle, the first thing she said is, where's the Discovery? How's the crew? Their comment was extremely damaged, but it's still together hardly. So obviously they're done per damage. Got it. Okay.
At the very beginning of the season, they explained that they're putting Discovery is going to be studied so they can try to create more of the mycelial, because they're taking it out of service and going to start using this new engine called the Path Drive, which has great animation. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that, and hopefully a new show that will take place in the 32nd. But they do talk about they're going to do something else with Discovery, and Stamets is lamenting that all season. So they at the very beginning they do talk about we're going to stop using Discovery.
But we do also see. I mean, we do know that Discovery does continue, because we do very briefly see Discovery A, right?
Wait.
Yeah, we have to talk about the long history of bad making people look old makeup in Star Trek.
It's all in the net.
There's a big, long tradition of this. And I wasn't just waiting on Riker to show up and explain that this has all been,
Jonathan Frakes.
It's all a holodeck program.
Yeah, so famously at the very end of season 5 of Enterprise, the very last PS of that is Jonathan Frakes showing up and being like, pause program, as Jonathan Archer is chatting with his crew. And then, his wife, Maria Sirtis's character, walks in and is all like, what are you doing? You have to come. And he's like, oh, I was just looking at these old stories. Those old captains, man, crazy. And they kind of walk away into the distance, alluding to the idea of everything that you just watched, all of Enterprise has just been kind of holodeck simulations with
Riker watching it. That's
right.
Pretty cool. So yeah, from the wedding scene, it fades out. And when it fades back in, we're with Captain Michael on what I felt like was an Easter egg to Into Darkness, the opening scene to Into Darkness.
Yeah, it was very red.
So she was in a cabin in the woods on a planet where every bit of foliage is super red, which I thought was just the visuals in this, the sets, it's just really impressive. And she's there and she's hanging out, in peaceful retirement looking thing with her old makeup on, with a lot of extra old makeup on her neck. So much extra on her neck. And in the room walks none other than Booker. So she retired out and spent all these years into her twilight with the space pirate Booker. And she gets a call from Fleet saying, hey, we're coming to pick you up to take you to, I think I missed this. Where did they tell her she knew she had plans that day to go.
She had one more mission for the Discovery.
One more mission.
She says.
Okay, that's what it was. So she's outside just chilling, and the transport shuttle shows up, and out walks her grown son. Is this the first time we've seen her kid?
Yeah, because they haven't been married. They weren't married or had any kids up until the very end of the last episode.
So that gives us the context of how far ahead we went. Obviously, 20 or so, 18 to 20 years around there, because a young man walks out of the ship and she's like, oh my gosh, you're supposed to be over here by now. And he's like, I pushed off a day so I could be the one to transport you back for the final mission. And Booker walks out and, it's husband and wife and son. So he gets to take his mom back to Federation's base of operations, or what is it called? Fleet Command?
Starfleet headquarters.
Starfleet headquarters. And they pull up to the Discovery, having the finishing touches of repair being done to it. You can see the work being done on the outside and everything. And there's some really, really cool shots. The design of all this stuff was fantastic. And she solo goes into the ship and starts talking to this AI tech, talking to the ship. I need some context here. What is
called
this thing?
Zora.
Zora?
Zora, Z-O-R-A.
Has Zora been there the whole time?
No,
Yeah, the ship became a character. I think in the third season.
correct. Yep.
So the ship is a character, an intelligent character.
The
Since
the
the third season.
the the person who always played like the ship's voice, whatever, in all the other episodes and all the other shows, whatever, merged with a program that was, or the program became one with the ship, with the ship's program, in order to become something more advanced than just, hey, you know what? I get to say more than just red alert. You know, I almost have a sentience type of a thing to it.
Yeah, it was clearly sentient.
Right.
Like she's talking to it, saying, "Hey, it's just me. The crew's not here, and the ship was sad about that.
Right.
But we're going on one more mission."
Aw.
And the ship's like, "That makes me happy." I'm like,
Right.
"That's cute." Now I need some. What is this final mission?
Well, when you get a chance, what you need to do is you need to go back to Paramount Plus, go back to your shows. There's a thing that's called Star Trek. It's called Short Treks. Okay, which is what they did for like the first 2 or 3 years of the Star Trek stuff, because they didn't have all these shows that they had now. In between, when these seasons would run, they would do these short treks, which were anywhere from like 10 to 20-minute little mini episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one called Calypso.
Which
And
makes no sense usually.
I loved her
Correct.
in the third Pirates movie.
Correct. So the one called Calypso, that's the one that stars Aldous Hodge.
Hey, I know
Okay.
him. Hawkman.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we told you we're
And
coming back
it's
to it.
and it's set 1,000 years after. Sorry, 100 years. 100 years. No, it is 1,000 years. I think it's 1,000 years after Discovery ends, where Captain Burnham has gone in her last thing. And if you listen closely to what she says, "I don't know anything about this thing except that I have to park. Basically, I have to park Discovery in this place, and there's something called craft." Okay, that's all she says. That's all she knows about it. So craft is Aldous Hodges' name in this thing. He is basically this person who is picked up by Discovery. He's in an escape pod that is picked up by Discovery, and Zora basically nurses him back to health and kind of developed a relationship with him.
You just saved this show because, to my knowledge, they were retiring this ship out in deep space. So, and I was about to say, you're telling me you're going to take this sentient ship and abandon it in space and just leave it there? That was so cold-blooded. I'm like,
Right.
wait a minute.
And,
What?
and
So
so to
that just
me,
made me feel so much better knowing that this ship has another story.
Yeah.
I've already pulled it up. I'm bookmarking this thing. I'm watching that tonight.
Right. So to me, Aggie, craft must be very important because this is a red directive.
There's so many questions around this because, like you
Right.
had said, this came out in 2018.
Right.
That blows me away because, like we were just
What a
saying, so
callback.
give us back a story on Zora. When that came out, the sentient AI thing hadn't come about yet. So, like when we were watching short treks, we watched a little couple minute episode of some guy we don't know who hadn't even been Hawkman yet, mind you.
Right.
With some weird voice going on the starship that we hadn't heard before, and the ship is essentially kind of like kind of breaking any tension you'll ever have for the rest of Discovery, because it makes it to wherever the heck this is, and also all the crew is gone. So like that is something that happened years ago, and now it's getting all of this interesting payoff, which is, I hate to say this, but more credit than I was giving them in a lot of ways. And I was really impressed by it. I'm really excited to see what they are going to do in the 32nd century, because that right there has showed a level of foresight of them trying to do something interesting. Like Paul said, this guy has got to be interesting, important for some reason.
Can you imagine if they're about to front run Aldous Hodge in the next season? That would be whatever that would be dope.
And it's important too because in the short treks, you see the original Discovery, and I say that because there are two different discoveries too. The original discovery in the first two seasons, if you notice, the nacelles are attached to the actual ship. Once they get into the 31st century or 32nd century, if you look, suddenly the nacelles are still there, but they had the technology that they actually float separately from the rest of the ship. And so
Well,
that's
the
why,
cells
and
are the big engines.
the big long things, yeah. And
They
also
were definitely attached in the finale, though, right?
at the end,
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is to do, they take the letter A off of the ship. They show them doing that as Burnham flies into it
Yeah, the little
because
ropes on it.
it's the NCC 1301 in this short track. So they basically reconfigure it back to the original discovery before Burnham takes it to make sure it lines up for everything that happened in the
Yeah,
short
that
track.
talk about detail. Like these people did their homework for sure. So I don't want to get to the at this point, like all that's left is the big finale, like the big bye-bye. Gets on the ship, talks about we have to take the ship, park it out in deep space because of something named craft. I don't know if it's a ship, a person, or what, but that's the red directive. And you have this really dope moment where she just is just on the bridge all old and stuff, and she just feels something touch her arm, and she looks, and it's Doug Jones's character, and it's all nice and lit up like we were mentioning with the really like nice, very well directed lighting, and she has like a memory of just her crew back on the bridge. They're not there, but you just get this final little look at them all like young, I guess what they looked like when all this began. Then she sits down and she tells Zora, "All right, you ready? Let's fly." And you get this beautiful grin, and just I'm like, wow, like I've never seen but this hour and a half of this show, and like that like hit me in the feels. And I expected what I've always seen when a starship takes off, like just pew, but no, they introduced this concept when they were taking out the dreadnought earlier. They talked about some science stuff that I always find interesting, not in movie stuff, but quantum entanglement. And it looks like they have quantum entanglement technology on the Discovery now, because it lights up for a split second, then it starts spinning on its own axis for like 2 seconds, then it just disappears down, like straight drop so fast if you blink you would miss it. I'm like,
it does that in every season.
Yeah, that's the mycelial network traveling. That's what makes Disco so
they didn't show that at all in this finale till that end. And that was the first time I saw that. I'm like, that was so dope. It was insane. Like,
you got to see saucer
separation. It was the final second of the show. I'm like, yo, what? They're not even traveling at light speed anymore. They're just instantly going to the other point.
In fact, if you remember, that's what they do with the dreadnought.
That's how they got the dreadnought out of there.
They put it between the two, and they get the dreadnought to spin and go out and disappear
but they did
instead.
so much random sciencey stuff in the midst of hatching up that plan. I didn't know what they did. They're next to two singularities. There's an abstract construct of the progenitors. I'm like, yo, they just sent that dude to 10 years away, and which I thought was like, what a leader. He's like, these people killed my entire people. I won't kill them, but I'm going to send them over here. It'll take them 10 decades to get back here, but that's more than they ever did for my people. At least they'll live. I'm like, dude, that's dope. That's what the wizard did to Black Adam. He's like, you can go to the end of the universe. Fly home.
Right.
Yeah. What is the captain from Lower Decks always yelling? Is you're lucky. I'm so damn honorable and considerate.
Right.
But yeah, that was absolutely bananas when I saw that. I thought like that was like I thought they did some kind of upgrade and like left everybody like hanging, like how the hell they do that? Like, but they do that the whole time. That's insane. Did they do that in the very beginning before they time jump forward too?
Yes.
Wow.
So, like, a quick background about that. So, the guy who is Little Spoon in this picture, that's Paul Stamets. That's his character's name, which is also the name of a famous actual mushroom scientist who has done, like, a lot of important work in mushroom science. And the idea of, like, you remember in The Last of Us, the idea that the mushroom network travels really, really fast and is all connected. I'm
very, very familiar with him. He was on Joe Rogan podcast and everything.
Hey, okay, great. Yeah, all right. So this is a
He wears the
kind
hat
of
made of fungi and stuff.
that's right. So
Mhm.
the idea is that the fungus network is everywhere at once, and Paul
Mhm.
Stamets discovered a way to travel it, making it the fastest ship in the fleet. The Discovery is the only ship that can do this. They've tried to make a couple others, and those ships have all been destroyed, and these things have happened. But yeah, that's its hero ship special thing is that it black alerts and can disappear in a moment. And then we see it do something which is like the big punch in introducing Picard ship originally, the Enterprise D, was that they did the saucer separation. And the pilot episode of that, the saucer flies away with all of the families on it, and then the main ship sticks around to fight with all the people who don't, who are prepared to die. They sent, the school kids that are on the Enterprise away. So saucer separation is a really cool effect. So they break out. That has never been before seen in Discovery. They can pull a saucer separation. It puts one on top of the Breen ship, one on below it, and then teleports it away after giving us some wonderful techno babble that gave everyone on the crew something to do. And, one of those wonderful, science moments that
Well, this
Discovery
played
is
that
known
played
for.
so well to me because, like Paul has said it numerous times over the past couple of months. There's been numerous times it was a great descriptor that he had for how he compares Star Wars to Star Trek, where Star Wars is science fantasy and Star Trek is science fiction. And I thought it was cool because I'm familiar with the idea of quantum entanglement. I couldn't explain it like in detail, but so I thought that was awesome just hearing words that I'm familiar enough with to understand what I'm looking at. Could I recreate it or do it or explain it on paper? No, but neither can they in the show, and they don't try. They say it like you already know it and understand it. And if you like, I love science stuff in real life. So like just the idea of like when you get into that level of science on things that small, particles we found exist in two places simultaneously. They're entangled in two different spots in the world. And that's when you talk about space travel and stuff in real life, like how would we ever travel faster than the speed of light? Well, you wouldn't. So the only way that you can achieve that distance in less time is by like folding space or the concept of quantum entanglement. So I thought that was absolutely brilliant. That, and I don't know why I wouldn't have thought of it anyways. It's been decades since I've tapped into anything Star Trek outside of those new movies. So if real life science stuff that I'm looking at are talking about these concepts, obviously the shows should be like foundational stuff for them. They have to fiction past it, and they did it, and it blew my mind. I'm like, that was insane. It was super cool. There were so many like little moments like that. Like it was awesome.
This I will admit, I can't just be like, oh, go watch all of Discovery. It's all great.
I was watching for
Like this season specifically, man, they really killed it. I wish we were getting more, and it does seem like they're cutting things out. What I suspect is they're doing the thing like you had said. I cannot believe they're getting rid of Lower Decks Ball. I suspect we're going to see something come back with a different name where they can legally, pay everyone.
Yeah.
Like it's a new show for a couple more years. So like you see that type of shenanigans going on, and I suspect we'll see something like that with a lot of these characters. I hope they bring it back. I would love to see more of adventures with Discovery because it's great that you were blown away by the special effect of the mycelial jump because it is a really cool thing. They don't warp away.
I
They
think
have
it's
this
funny they call
really
it
cool
mycelial
effect.
jump too. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's
So real
neat.
quick, like we all right, because I'm like now kind of getting into like the bigger fandom of Star Trek and this show. Like after I watched the finale twice today, just because I felt like I could miss some stuff here and there. And the second time I was like watching it while I was like eating and reading at the same time, just having it on. But then I got to thinking after the second time I went online and was just kind of just like reading the room. You know what I mean? Like what is the overall take on this? And one thing I checked is just the reviews. And where would y'all, if you had to rate this in a percentile range, like where would you rate Star Trek Discovery the series? Not just the finale, but like up against the other ones, just as a whole, just however, just what would you rate this series?
As a series, okay, I think I've said this before. To me, the best series, and it does the most inventive, the most creative work, is Strange New Worlds. Having said that, to me, the most satisfying season has been Picard season 3. To me, um, but so I would have Star Trek Discovery behind Strange New Worlds, with Picard overall as a series as a third, even though it does have the best season of the
So
three.
you're putting this above Enterprise, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, The Next Generation, the original series, all that.
I have liked the newer stuff almost better than I like some of the old stuff, but obviously,
That's fine.
you
That's
know,
fine.
you
0 to
know,
10. What do you rate Discovery?
I'd give it a good 8.5. I think probably.
Ag.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. It's a high mark in science fiction for me. Like as the whole series, when this all started, I was a Picard guy, and when people say best captain, man, I am tempted to say Michael Burnham now. Ever since the third season, she went like die hard for 3 episodes, taking her ship back. And what is like the thing that really makes her stand out throughout all of the seasons, that kind of like gives you the I'm proud to be a human that all the captains are supposed to give you, is that she is like a pit bull. And I know you don't like the pit bull analogy. You think pit bulls are
Oh, I
sweet,
love it. I
and
think
they
pit bulls
are,
are
right?
dangerous animals. I'm one of the people that think people. Yeah, they're dangerous animals. I get it.
What's great about Michael Burnham is that she's game. Like she
Gang, gang.
does not give up. And that's what is great about her. So like in the third season, when she like cut her feet, it's obviously paying homage to Die Hard, as she single-handedly takes her ship back and the whole time is running her mouth and bleeding. Like I, I'm a big fan of the captain of this and our crew who we got, and the overall, yeah, Discovery overall, yeah, 9 out of 10. I love this series. I definitely have some complaints, but a high mark in all of Star Trek.
So like I have no context, and I hate using Rotten Tomato as a metric, but critics gave it 84%, and I never trust the critics
Wow.
there.
I'm
But
surprised by that. It normally gets pretty dog walked by critics.
the audience score on Discovery is 34%. That's
That's
pretty
overall series, or that's
yeah.
this episode.
That's the overall series, 34%.
It is different. I mean, when it first started, especially the first season, it was pretty dark compared to other Star Trek series. So it didn't do well out of the gate with a lot of Star Trek fans. And maybe some people give up on it, but yeah, to me that seems way too low. The other thing that we didn't, when we were talking about everything that's coming up, we don't want people to forget that we have a Section 31 movie coming up as well,
For
which will have.
context, real quick, Strange New Worlds is sitting at 98 critics and 79 audience. I think
Why everyone watched the very first episode?
I hate to be that guy, but I think this is an easy one to point out as like a review bomb candidate. Like I mentioned from the beginning, stuff typically has a harder hill to climb when you're starting out with a large population of people that do like to crap on things without watching them.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, disco has been the tip of the spear of doing all of the things that make people
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to introduce characters of various different sexes and sexual persuasions, act like it's no big deal. We're going to do a lot of talk about rights of like species, and it's set up to do that because you're always like having conflicts between different people that is so easily to set up one-to-one comparisons of the real world, and that the tradition of Trek is to do that. So like the subject material, the tradition of the show, the cast, and the people creating it were being, openly antagonistic towards these people. And you can even see kind of like in the last episode, the penultimate episode when we're at the Bajoran library. You didn't see this one. She kind of has to talk about being captain of the Discovery and what that means. And that kind of seemed to be also speaking towards the criticism that the show had gotten. Like that speech is very interesting. And like the other thing that Discovery does that people don't like is that because it's set so far in the future, people do behave in the way where elementary school teachers would hope you would. They're very earnest, very smiley. Everyone's wearing their emotions on their sleeve. I felt like it was answering a criticism this season. At one point, some horrible thing was happening, and they're like, how do we get out of this? And someone started explaining the science, to which one person yelled, explain later, solution now. And I felt like that awesome. Was answering a criticism of itself.
That's really good.
So like there is a lot of that, and it really was pushing, like it was trying to do that stuff and trying to do it in a natural way. And it's a really big compliment you gave it, that, you don't feel like it's it was a detriment there, that, most of the cast are going to be women, people of color.
Yeah, the entire cast.
Binary
the only straight white man on this show.
The relationship between Stamets and the Dr. Culber, they were kissing on screen and like being very much a couple. It wasn't hidden at all. So yeah, I can understand it. It definitely has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and definitely the type of people who would, like you said, review bomb.
Also looking at when this show started, you have to look at when this show started, because there's unfortunately this show does require the conversation of like, has like the anti-woke culture affected it? I would say yes, but I also think like you have the opposite end of that spectrum, where is leaning into that full throttle going to help or hurt your show? It's going to hurt your show. But they might not have known that or thought about that at the start of this show, because that was just kind of like, that's just the nature of entertainment. If you go back to 2019, we're on an uphill swing of everything leaning into being more quote unquote woke, not to sit here and have to break down definitions and stuff. And this show was kind of flagshipping that. So that's what it is. That's what it is. And as kind of looks like people are kind of knee jerking it more now than before. And it's kind of detrimental to things' success now more than before. And so but I will say, like, this show doesn't seem to have suffered quality for it, if that makes sense. Like it's present, it's an easy target, but it definitely looks like all the quality that you would want to see in something is still there. So I'm more,
and I know you talked about, like you can
beginning of it and kind of just watch it,
like X-Men, and say, well, that was more of about, having fun adventures. It kind of developed some of these larger ideas and, later works. But like Star Trek, one of the most famous stories about it is, Martin Luther King coming to Uhura and being like, Nichelle Nichols, the actress's name, and being like, you're the most important role on TV. You're, on the bridge of the starship in the future. That's incredible. That's, so uplifting to me. And she was thinking about leaving, Star Trek. And she thought about like how important that was. And then at the beginning of our show here tonight, you were saying, the very first interracial kiss. Mm-hmm. And, I could sit here and talk about it, bona fides throughout, years. It pretty much, if a Star Trek show is not taking the slings and arrows from people, whether it's people in the 90s being like it's too PC, or people nowadays, saying it's too diverse.
It was using the term diverse and diversity long before anybody else was.
Yeah. I will say, like, when it comes down to that kind of stuff, something out there has to be the spearhead. Like, whether it wants to be or not, something will always be the most progressive or the most diverse or this just by nature. That's just how things are. Something's the most and something's the least. If you're going to be the most, if you're self-aware and again, it's not affecting the quality of your product, that should be a badge of honor at that point. You know what I mean? So I don't have enough context. Again, I've only watched the finale, but based on the finale, they did really good. But I kind of want to dive into Strange New Worlds at this point, just like start there and try to play catch up.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to address two things people said inside the chat, which is ABX Comments and Games talking about the person that was never shown. They always reference Cook on the crew. There was a time when William Shatner was going to be Cook. It ended up falling through. It never ended up happening. But yeah, that is a fun fact. And then talking about Orville, I think Orville is a great Star Trek show. Basically, that it's on Disney Plus now. Everyone check that out. That's supposed to be more of a funny version of it. Though I think in the later seasons, it just kind of did its own thing and really became a Star Trek show. So to Scotty's question, Orville, Star Trek, they're both really, really good. And yeah, everyone watch the very first episode of Strange New Worlds like a movie. Just watch that episode. It's kind of a love letter to all things Star Trek, and will probably make you want to watch the rest of the season. I mean, it's the episode that made Remy Q, talk about Star Trek. He got really excited about it from watching that. And I think like you said, from the audience score, everyone who's watched that, it does a really good job of doing what everyone kind of perceives Star Trek is supposed to be doing. Also, what Scotty's saying here, just showing up and being really fun and a fun adventure each episode, and then moving on, not these big, larger stories that you're seeing in Discovery. Yeah, everyone check out Strange New Worlds. That's great. Mm-hmm. And we got more of it coming.
Yep.
What's next for Star Trek on Paramount Plus?
Probably Lower Decks season 5.
Yeah.
There's Lower Decks, the animated spoof.
Yeah, it's done by one of the guys who helped create Rick and Morty. If you like Rick and Morty, you'll like Lower Decks. But
what's next in terms of the actual shows? You still have Strange New Worlds isn't done, right?
It has at least 2 more seasons. It has one season season 3 has been filmed. It's just waiting to be released. It's in post-production now, and it has already been renewed for season 4. And then we have the Section 31 movie, which has Michelle Yeoh.
She was in Discovery, right?
Correct. She played 2 characters. She played the original captain of Discovery, who was killed, and then she played her mirror universe counterpart, who came over to our universe, was basically stuck here. And then, for those of you who know the original Star Trek, she was basically because she was out of time and out of space, she was starting to have she was starting to fluctuate. Her whole substance was starting to fluctuate. She was sent through the Guardian of Tomorrow to wherever, and now she's going to be in the new Section 31 movie.
Nice. What time span is that supposed to be set in?
Yeah, I got it. We got an update on that. It's what's known as the lost time period. The period between the last time we saw the original series crew in the movies and when we first catch back up with TNG.
Right.
Last time we saw the original crew in the movies and when?
And then when we meet Picard.
So Generations, the movie exactly. Generations.
Well, specifically the very beginning of the Next Generation, the series.
That was a good movie when the passing the torch there.
There was 2 enterprises that existed between that time period. So Philippa could end up on either one of those. That character, Philippa Georgiou, the Empress of the Terran universe. Yeah, it was the girl who just recently won Best Actress for
Anywhere,
All Things Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting about her too is that when I was younger, I did Kung Fu because I love Kung Fu movies, right?
I can definitely see that.
Yeah, and she's a big deal for Wing Chun people. She was in a bunch of early movies, and she wasn't ever a martial artist. She was a dancer. But if you show like dancers kung fu moves, they're like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
So she ended up doing a whole bunch of early like Wing Chun, and then you even see her kung fu influence in how Michael Burnham fights because that was her captain originally. Not on the Discovery, actually. In the very first episode, it was another ship. It was the I can't think of it. But she gets moved to the Discovery. Michael Burnham does in the first season after she dies. And then that's when she meets the first captain that we meet of the Discovery, Malfoy's dad.
Right.
I can't think of that actor's name right now.
Well, dang.
But yeah, he's wonderful, doing a Texas accent badly.
Perfect.
But yeah, there's also more Prodigy, supposedly. So that's the other cartoon. And that will be on Netflix. And then there's the weird ones, right? So there's the one that's set up by the idea of Academy taking place in the 32nd century, maybe with this guy Rayner, maybe with this character Tilly, or also the series that was kind of promised to spin out of Picard season 3, featuring 7 of 9 from Voyager and Picard's new son, the actor from the show You, and the rom-com Irish Wish. He hasn't really done very much. But yeah, that guy in Star Trek, I think Legacy was what it was called, Paul?
Yeah, that's what we're shooting for, yep.
Yeah, so those are the two shows who were like, we don't know if Legacy is going to happen. Kind of like publicly, the guy who everyone loved who ran season 3 of Picard has been hired by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of went over there.
Was over at 3, right? That was like a proper ending for that series.
Oh, it was, yeah. Picard season 3 is held up by a lot of people of like, real premium fan service.
Yeah, but I'm saying like that show doesn't have a season 4 and it ended properly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's all done. Unless,
and there's besides the fact that you talked about, once you get beyond 4 or 5 seasons, whatever, it costs more to do the shows, which it does. One of the things that they say is working against new Star Trek is Paramount is pretty much up for sale, and they don't want to necessarily commit a lot of money before they sell themselves, in the same, in short order. So that's not helping.
You're right. This is it. It's like, there's a big talk about Paramount being eaten by one of these other companies. So Star Trek is kind of up in the air, but also to the idea of, I see a Tasha Yar shout out there. Denise Crosby, she just returned for the new episode of Star Trek Online, which you can play free right now. Yeah, actually, they just brought back Denise Crosby.
Well, y'all want to switch over and hit some of the news from this week?
Yeah, definitely.
The other Star Trek you want to drop on here?
Man, I think we've Star Trekked your audience pretty thoroughly.
Yeah.
Star Trek to me, that's for sure. One thing I do want to let everybody know, if you missed it on Friday, we made the announcement Friday morning on the community hangout of the next big thing happening for Comics Curing Cancer. We have our own exclusive, partnered up with Big Time Collectibles. Big shout out to them. They're a channel sponsor. They donated not only 50% of this print run, but the cost of the book, Miko, everything. Big Time Collectibles donated Sonic the Hedgehog issue number 69, shared exclusive, black and white version, beautiful book. Absolutely gorgeous. As a matter of fact, like I have 250 copies of it sitting here. They're going to Heroes with us. Back of it, it's got the Comics Curing Cancer logo as well as Big Time Collectibles. And what's funny is I actually had to convince Nelson to put his actual logo on there because he was wanting just to do everything he can to put Comics Curing Cancer, Heroes Con, whatever. We're like, no, we would love for you to be represented on the book so other people will see that you can do things with the charity, But Nelson's is that good of a guy. It's absolutely beautiful in person, featuring the character Shadow front and center, who will be featured in the upcoming live action film with Keanu Reeves doing the voice Yeah, so we got Keanu Reeves front and center on the Comics Curing Cancer exclusive. Those will be sold at Heroes Con, booth number 1769. Hey, yo. But I do want to say this book in the true big time collectibles fashion, because not everybody can make it to these conventions. We have allocated a limited quantity onto the website. So if you would like to pick up your copy, I actually need to link this. It takes 2 seconds. Boom, 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 bang. We put all of our Comics Curing Cancer stuff.
Yeah, I just realized this is Sonic issue 69 at booth 69. I'm seeing a theme.
Yeah, you sure are. For a good time called Comics Curing Cancer. But I'll drop the link in the chat. So, like, I think we have like 1 or 2 of the Brand Flake Spider-Man prints left, as well as a few copies of Sonic allocated to the site. So if you would like to support Comics Curing Cancer, 100% of proceeds go straight to Comics Curing Cancer. This book cost us nothing thanks to Big Time Collectibles. So the price of that book goes straight to Comics Curing Cancer. If you're not able to go pick it up in person, you do have to pay for shipping. That's why it's on the website and everything. But the link is in the chat. You can get your copies tonight and be a part of helping kick cancer's butt. We have a goal of $55,000 for this year. That's why we've came up with these schemes, these ideas to do things throughout the year to try to get the ball rolling and to help spread the word, because we can't hit $55,000 without people being involved and people doing stuff like Big Time Collectibles, like DJ doing the prints and taking them to shows, setting up at shows, and making people aware that we exist. We'll be working our balls off at this show, like hitting artists, like talking to vendors, everything we can, so that in come October for the big finale, we can actually achieve this goal. Last year we broke 50,000. Right now we're sitting on I think just under 7,000 this far out. You know, people like ABX Comics and Games did the raffle on the book during Free Comic Book Day at $600 just from doing a raffle on a simple Free Comic Book Day slab. Brought in $600 because people love to do stuff and be a part of and support a cause, which is fantastic. So, like, throw ideas out there if you have avenues or ways, but at the very least, sharing is caring. Sharing is caring. Shout out to AR with Sonic number 69 from this week.
Yeah, I actually collect Sonic. Me and my boy read it. It's man, it has a long print run and is better than it has any right to be.
Mm-hmm. So I'm excited that we have like a really cool property like that. We've had some people message the Comics Curing Cancer IG asking if there's a purchase limit because they want to pick some up for their friends that can't make it and stuff like that, because they'll be at Heroes Con. So that's exciting news. So definitely wanted to mention that. All right. In other news this week, we got our first look at the Kent farm. Did y'all see that? Not Superman Legacy, but Superman is filming in this is the Kent farm in the upcoming Superman movie. Or as me and aggressively relaxing recognize it, the house down the block. Because that's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, I gotta find this. This is, I mean, the Kent farm somewhere in Georgia, right?
Yes, definitely in Georgia, dude. It is being filmed in Georgia, but it's funny seeing that because, like, I can drive like 10 minutes, like out my neighborhood and down the road and be on a road that's what all the houses look like. You know what I mean? But I thought that was pretty cool. I hope there's a barn somewhere on the property.
I love the casting of Pa Kent. I love the casting of the home. That looks like the place that raises, Superman.
That looks like the place that raises like high school football players for a living.
Right? Yeah. It might not be the majestic White House in the middle of the field so many other people have gone with.
Exactly, Paul. That's the house off Brown Road. That's exactly what it looks like. Just the house.
But I think it fits the Pa Kent we got.
Yeah. Sure enough. In other news, and I'm excited about this one, Transformers 1 ran test screenings this week. And Transformers 1 got the highest rated test screenings of all time for Paramount's animated stuff. Transformers 1 that, when they dropped the trailer, split the fandom. highest rated test screenings of all time, which
I
leads
saw
us.
I saw that trailer at Garfield when I went to
It
see
looks
Garfield,
amazing.
and it was the best part of Garfield.
Before you get on the rant, and the actor who's doing the voice of Orion Pax, aka Optimus Prime, in Transformers One this past week has been tapped. We don't have a confirmation yet, but he's been tapped for the upcoming live-action Transformers G.I. Joe movie, which is the next film in the live-action franchise. So we could be potentially getting Chris Hemsworth either as Optimus in the live-action or as a Joe, which I don't know who else has seen the Extraction movies with Chris Hemsworth, but if they cast him as a G.I. Joe, we just got like the greatest G.I. Joe ever. Because that dude crushes it. Like,
And also possibly in a new Star Trek movie if they do the prequel to.
Yeah, hopefully they bring it back. That was the other Star Trek. You're right.
and that's what
And
we call a callback.
he's got the #1 movie in the country right now. Not that it's saying very much, apparently, from the box office.
No.
I haven't seen Furiosa, but I want to.
Yeah, I do too, but neither is very many other people. Me and my dad got to get out there and see it. That's man, that's a whole thing that I would go down on a rant about with the whole counterculture, like ruining stuff that they have no business ruining and not going to see kind of thing. Oh, that bums me out. Also, Warner Brothers tapping Zack Snyder to come in to do a 300 prequel for Max. Don't know how I feel about that one. I'll definitely watch it.
I mean,
So
after that,
So what is that called? 299?
297. Close.
I mean,
297.
after that interview you did with Joe Rogan about 300,
Amazing.
I really want to see this movie.
Yeah, they owed him. And he delivered them like a mega hit. That was awesome. So you ready for the sad news?
Mm-hmm.
You know what else test screened this week?
What?
Captain America 4, and it had the exact opposite reaction as Transformers 1.
Oh no.
Captain America 4 that has been remade from scratch, test screen. Anthony Mackie looks amazing right there, first off, but the movie has gotten terrible response, and then set photos started leaking this week. I think that's intentional when set photos start just magically leaking all of a sudden, but Giancarlo Esposito is playing one of the villains, and there's a look at him from the movie. We also got a picture of Diamondback on set, but didn't look like in costume, just super pink hair. But I don't know what's going to go on with this.
Oh, I hadn't seen that picture. That's crazy.
Oh, I come up with all kinds of cool stuff. I got my sources, my leak sources.
Is this coming out of that guy on Instagram that's being hunted by Disney?
It's about Disney.
Yeah, you heard about that story? Some guy named something Toast.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it was. This guy's on Instagram dropping all sorts of stuff, obviously from set. And at this point, what is it? I think 2 different companies, one of them being Disney, has requested his information from Instagram.
What?
So, yeah, they're trying to figure out who this guy is. They're attempting to, pursue him because he's leaking all sorts of stuff. I can't remember the exact guy, something Toast. But if you look it up, it's a pretty big story right now. But he's been leaking all sorts of set photos. Still, that's interesting. I was wondering about, man, they made him a bad guy? I was really hoping they would let him be a good guy for once. Well, I have no idea who he is. I have people that are friends of mine who are working on Captain America 4. Of course, like the news says, that was a couple years ago that they worked on it, and they've been, reworking it and messing with it for a bit now. Man, I'm really interested to see who he plays. And I'm interested to see this movie because the idea is supposed to be returning to the tone of, like trying to do the Winter Soldier tone of, international intrigue, kind of spy trade stuff. And I love Anthony Mackie. You know, whenever he's on stage doing anything, I
Cut
think
the check.
those movies are working. Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. It's interesting, like because the idea is that you're gonna give us a more grounded film. You know, when people are so excited about this big future, and it would be this is the film that's going to come after Deadpool, which will do even more to set up, you know, what this future thing will be. Meanwhile, you know, Anthony Mackie's Captain America is just living in the MCU world playing politics. You know, while we know that incursions are erasing whole, you know, like uh, universes. So the difference in stakes in these films nowadays, I think, is interesting. I think that was a complaint going into Black Widow. All right, you guys looking forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, of the movies that they have coming out, I'm probably most interested in Captain America 4. I'm not really that interested in Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I've been very excited for Captain America 4 since Endgame. I love Anthony Mackie as an actor, especially in the MCU. Special features matter. People mentioned it early on. Me and Pops watched Winter Soldier in the theater together. We watched it when it came out on video together. We sat at his house, watched it, and then we immediately finished a movie and we start special features. And there's a great special feature called Cut the Check. And there's no way you can not absolutely love Anthony Mackie after watching that. And he does this thing during the filming of that movie. They would do a scene, they would say cut, and he would just immediately yell, cut the check, like he just nailed it. You know what I mean? Because he did. He's just so fun. He just has this energy. It's just infectious. You just love him on screen.
Oh yeah,
Discovery, thoroughly enjoyed it. Wow. Thanks for that's better than having it ruined by us, I guess. It was good, right? Except the progenitor technology being the MacGuffin. The whole thing was good other than that.
Oh hey, look at that. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, Discovery's great. Beautiful show, great characters. You know, Star Trek's doing big ideas.
Cut the check is a great special feature. It is, isn't it? Like, yeah, phenomenal actor. But yeah, I think the biggest, I've said it before, the biggest fumble that Disney pulled with the MCU is after Spider-Man, whatever, that came right after Endgame. Their biggest fumble was not Captain America 4 instantly. That should have been you should have foundationed off of that. Like everyone, like we didn't need the Winter Soldier show. Like that was fine. If you had to do it, you had to do it. Next movie should have been Captain America after that. There shouldn't have been these years and these flops and these C and D list characters expecting to carry a franchise of this magnitude. Not cool at all. Like Disney did everyone involved in those failed projects dirty with those decisions.
There is a little bit of Anthony Mackie MCU content that you can check out. I know there's YouTube videos of it. When I did that Disney cruise, and one of the nights when you have the dinner, your ship is shrunk down, by Ant-Man, and other shenanigans happen, and then a bad guy comes and attacks the ship, and Anthony Mackie came and saved me that night. And it was, he's very charming. He shows up, hangs out with Paul Rudd and them for a little bit. It looks like he's kind of like phoning it in. He doesn't look like as shaved as he normally is. Like he just kind of showed up on this Disney cruise ship one day, said cut the check, and got out of there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but it's like him hanging out with Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and
I've seen that. It's a clip from also the parks, isn't it? Something they do at the parks as well as the cruise.
I think so. Yeah,
I've watched that. But Bottom Tier says I don't think they're going to recapture the magic without Evans. I 100% agree. Nor should they try. Should they try. They need to let Anthony Mackie bring Anthony Mackie energy to it and do Anthony Mackie. They don't need to recapture Captain America. They need to lean into the Falcon. He is the Falcon who took on the mantle of Captain America. He still had the wings. He's Captain Falcon America. He's not one or the other. He is both of those entities at that time. No one No one said, "Oh, here comes Captain America. There's that guy from 5 years ago. He's back to help us." No, they're like, "Hey, here's the Falcon, who's taking on the mantle while Cap's not here. The Falcon took up the mantle. You know what I mean? It's a mantle he took up. No one's mistaking these two people to be the same person ever. Cap never had wings."
And I will say, I've heard too from people, like I said, I know a couple of people that work on these movies, and supposedly Anthony Mackie on Captain America 4 was just like the best. He's constantly concerned about what everyone's doing. He's really trying to live up to the Captain America thing, signing things for little kids, like trying his best to, like be on set on time, showing up early and stuff. Everyone's saying that like he was really trying to live up to the idea of Captain America. It's constantly a joy to be around. Definitely. And I think that's what we're talking about when we say we love watching this guy in anything.
Yeah, he's fantastic. This right here, that made me so mad. Like, talk about baiting. Like, that's what I don't like when you try to bait the audience. Like, get real. Like, that was the dumbest thing ever. I work for S.H.I.E.L.D. I work for the government. I've saved the world tenfold, and I can't get a loan. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like that, I don't like that low-hanging fruit race baiting stuff, and that's all that was, man. That was so bad. Cast iron right to the back of the head of the viewer. Bam. And if you're out there, saying, "Well, that really happens," no, that does not happen.
I think Captain America tackling how it's hard to start a small business, not necessarily everyone else believes in, is a real thing that soldiers come home.
I think that's a great example of out of touch. They should have, if they wanted someone to not get the loan, he shouldn't have been in the room at that desk.
And it also goes back to, like I've heard a lot of criticisms of like this phase of Marvel that we're talking about, and really almost every single problem that's presented in the phase could have been solved if like Pepper Potts would open up her checkbook for just a second, like.
Yeah. Oh, Godzilla -1 dropped on streaming services this week. I've watched it numerous times now. I bought it on Vudu. It's also on Netflix. It is in an English dub version. So Sledge, you need to go back and watch it now that it's in your preferred format. It's absolutely amazing. I can't get enough of it. Finn just is watching it on repeat too. Yeah, Cap could be too comedic. The entire MCU is too comedic. And if they're bringing in like the leader, Red Hulk, Diamondback, Giancarlo Esposito's mystery character.
I'm glad they're bringing back the leader. That actor is wonderful. And it's a bummer that they have so many other villains because I would that means he won't get very much to do in theory. But that guy is great.
Nice. Let's see what else did I have on this list here. Last thing, Mission Impossible 4 suffered a setback. I don't know if I brought that up last week. That was from last week though. The submarine, the real life submarine they're using.
The $27 million submarine.
They're using to make this epic finale for Dead Reckoning that's the final name to be revealed is suffered some setbacks, pushing the estimated cost of this film to roughly $400 million. So hopefully Scientology is footing the bill because they're not seeing that money back unless
$27 million doesn't buy you what it used to.
It doesn't. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. We've been going for a minute, almost hitting the 2-hour mark. I'm going to flash through these books real quick and just show everybody what I picked up this week. It was a smaller week, but I ended up with a lot of stuff somehow. Flash number 9 dropped this beautiful John Jang variant. Direct market cover here. These are in comic book stores everywhere. And I got multiple because I always do the giveaways on my Tuesday live stream for New DC Day. Make sure y'all check those streams out. It's a great one. The new Dune, House Carino number 3 dropped. Wicked cool cover. Excited to dive into that, especially knowing the Dune television series is coming to Max. Avengers Twilight finale came out this week, so we got the big fight with Hulk being dropped in there as a tool of the government and the Red Skull under their control. Good fight with Thor. He ended up drowning and killing the Hulk, which was kind of lame. I'll be honest with you, a lot of people were like, this stuck the landing. I don't feel like it did. I don't feel like the series stuck the landing at all. I think the series was like a 10. Every issue was a 10. And I felt like the finale was like a 6, which made it stand out way more. It wasn't bad, but the finale wasn't a 10. I have not read the final issue of The Return yet, intentionally, because it's the final issue, and I'm not ready to read the final issue. Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, nobody cares but me. New series dropped called Helverine. It's a callback to that little crossover flashback they did in the Ghost Rider series, where Wolverine and Ghost Rider teamed up and fought this evil that was destroying families and stuff. They're called back to in this, and they think that Wolverine's doing it. He gets questioned, blah, 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 blah. He ends up coming face to face with the Helverine, and when it depowers, it's none other than his son, the son that we just saw ripped to shreds and pieces by Sabretooth in the birthday issue of Wolverine. I wasn't going to pick this up and pull it. Paul made sure to put one in my box in case I was, because it's Ghost Rider related. And I went to put it back on the shelf, and I saw the Mark Texera cover, and I'm like, I'm definitely getting this. So I just swapped it out for that. So now it matches my other ones from the current Final Vengeance run. Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 5. I haven't read it yet because I don't care yet. I'm not going to drop it, but this series really needs to do something. Everyone's still praising it, but like we talked about previously, like, praising mediocrity does not make it good, and it's just mediocre. So maybe this issue is amazing. I don't know yet. I'll see. Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, the 30th anniversary special. Yo, y'all remember Godzilla 1985? There's a little flying tank from that dropped the nuke and everything. Pick these up, have fun reading them, and giving them the fin. It keeps him interested in stuff. And my kid loves Godzilla. It's like crack. There's the A cover for Flash. This series sucks. This series. So there's a major revelation on who the Pilgrim is in this issue. This issue was so unnecessarily wordy, probably the most unnecessarily wordy one yet. But we get the Reverse Flash in this, kinda. He's present in a lot of stuff, but not like tangibly present. But the Pilgrim takes Jay to safety, and we find out who the Pilgrim is, which is a callback to the series itself. But they kind of drop a hint of like who it could be and make you think like, oh, could it be this person? Then they immediately tell you in the very next freaking panel that it's an older version of Jay. That's why he's there to help and not harm and blah, blah, blah. Instead of giving you a cool little mystery to hang on to and talk about they just tell you. Stupid. Dark Ages, Book 3. Bruce Wayne's back in town after Vietnam, being trained by Ra's al Ghul. He's got the suit on. He's starting to fight the False Face gang, and he's losing his encouragement along the way because, it's like he's fighting uphill. Superman comes in, drops a little bit of hope, and we keep on pushing, crossing over the time stream from Space Age now because the Justice League is formed, and the fight continues. He's going to need a Robin before this is all over. Green Arrow issue number 12. We're going to deep dive on this one over on Sector 2815's channel. Be sure to tune in. This is the finale to the second arc, and it is a finale. It was dope. Penguin issue number 10. Still just methodically taking back the reins of his city in violent fashion. He's coming for his own kids. Wicked. Detective Comics 1081, right? 1085. This was amazing. Batman's back. Batman was getting settled in the last issue. He's settled. He wants his city back. And Catwoman is talking with the Joker, thinking about ways to help out and come at this Orgum family that's made Joker's life pointless without Batman. Batman is back and trying to find a way to approach the situation. He dons a new suit, a suit of the city, and it is terrifying. It was awesome. This is so good. Batman's going around getting the gang back together, the gang that saved him from death. All these people that have been like tapped through this whole run by Ron V. He's pretty much tapped everybody at one point, and Batman's going back to him. Mr. Freeze, everybody. This is
exactly, and with the introduction of a new person at the very last, with the Scarecrow now to join, coming up in the next.
The Orgum family is bringing in the Scarecrow. That's going to backfire.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought when Ron V started that he would basically? I mean, you thought it was going to be about the Orgums and everything, but he is basically gone to just about every single major villain in the Batman Rogues Gallery at one point or another.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Aggressive. I'm looking at the stack that you were dropping as I was going. I see. Is that a Dark Horse symbol I see poking out the corner there?
Oh yeah, I'm getting Avatar.
You're getting Avatar. I'm not the only one.
Oh man, Avatar is on my list of worlds I've decided to know too much about.
It's fun, isn't it? It's unlimited. One of the things that makes these Avatar comics so good is the fact that James Cameron spent decades crafting this world and every little detail about them before this movie, the first movie ever came out. So when they want to do a comic or something, they have this decades long world to tap into. The details are all there. So it's so well crafted, so many details. And for one, I think whoever colored this series should have been up for an Eisner Award. It's one of the most beautifully covered comics I've read in a while.
Yeah, they have spared no expense. You're not wrong. Like the artwork, really nowadays, a lot of modern artwork is just incredible. They got a lot of tools to like move it along faster, make backgrounds quicker, and things like that. But like when you see someone use all of those things really, really well, Avatar kind of lives up to its legacy of prestige media, and it goes with the comic. It's good. Yeah, I
nailed it, Jeff. The red herring's giving Dakin more than 2 claws. Yeah, I get it. Texera didn't read it. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into this issue. I love the structure of this Solec's journey, how each issue has been, he's on like the hero's quest to refine himself. And every issue he's finding himself with a different tribe. And one thing that's really cool about Avatar, you've only seen it slightly in the movies, like at the end of the first movie, how Jake got all the tribes together and they talk about it. The Ikran clans of the cliff by the sea, the horse clans of the plains, like all these different tribes specialize in a different part of not just nature, but like spirituality and skill sets. So he's finding himself by just traveling as the last person of his tribe and experiencing these other tribes and getting like whatever lesson that they're most specialized in. He's discovering that for himself. And just in 3 issues, we've covered years, because issue number 2, he stayed with that tribe for years, learning like the art of patience and being okay with yourself in silence and stillness and stuff. It's really good. It's really freaking good. I don't get to talk about it enough.
Yeah, I've been picking up every single episode.
Don't you dare, Sledge. They umbrella own it, but James Cameron won't let them near it. Y'all saw we talked about it when it came out. It's old news, but like the money coming in from Avatar 2, there was Disney wanted some of it, and James like, yeah, that goes this way. There was a little bit of confusion.
Well, me and you have argued a lot about Disney throughout the years, and I think the strength with the Avatar thing, like you said, they're just going to let James Cameron do James Cameron stuff and reap the benefits. And I think that Disney does a good job with that, with a lot of different creators to mixed, results. I think they do a good job of letting people make stuff.
On that topic, because Disney also owns Pixar, they put out a statement today saying that Pixar is now focusing on films with, quote, clear mass appeal with less focus on, quote, autobiographical tales. So the studio's movies should be less a pursuit of any director's catharsis and instead speak to a commonality of experience. And they pointed to films like Luca and Turning Red as examples of movies that they do not need to make. Not saying that those were bad, but those are movies that lacked the mass appeal that they need. So looks like that's another like crazy balancing act you have to take, right? James Cameron is definitely an exception to all rules that have ever existed with cinema, but
I mean,
it was a great movie. We watched it a ton of times. I don't think Turning Red should have been made.
The build up to Avatar 2, everyone was
they thought it was going to fail.
Yeah, and I never got that. Like,
what's going on, Will? Paul knows this story. This is how petty I am, right? So Paul's fully aware of this. And I pop on Facebook every now and then. I try to avoid Facebook, but I do have the Legion page over there. And when I go over there to check messages and stuff, I might peruse around. And back before Avatar came out, some of these pages were like Avatar projecting to do this, and people in comments were just panning it. I'm talking panning it. This is stupid. They ain't gonna make no money. They waited too long. Everything in the world you can say. And I would comment like, yo, are you really betting against James Cameron? This sounds crazy to me. Like, this is the craziest stuff I ever heard. Like, do y'all not know who this is? Like, it doesn't make sense. So after the movie came out, opening weekend, it did approximately 56 million domestic. Avatar is not a Marvel movie. It's not a DC movie. It's not an opening weekend success metric. Avatar has like one of the longest running box office runs. Titanic. Like, look at Maverick. Avatar is that formula. We're making this, and people will come see it because the Avatar fan base is not the same kind of people that stay online theorizing and projecting and arguing. No, they just love it. They show up, they show out, and they have a huge fandom that participates in the pockets that they have. You know, they don't participate at large. You know, they're not going to comment on a random news source article. They're participating in Avatar areas. And so after it came out and it did its weekend, I went over there. I'm like, y'all think that's bad? It made 56 million domestic, but it's already up to 250 million worldwide. It made $250,000 worldwide in 2 days, and they were still calling it a failure. So I'm of course remembering where I see all this, had these conversations. So fast forward a week and a half, I'm like, I go back over there, like, hey, it just broke $1 billion. Remember that? Remember that failure? It just broke $1 billion. Fast forward 3 weeks. Hey, it just broke $2 billion. Like, it was the most gratifying thing ever, just to go over there and troll these people who were trolling it before it came out. But that's how petty I am about stuff.
Well, I know we're at the end of the show here, and like DVH makes a really good point about, like, I know the feeling that people feel when they saw Avatar and thought, really? The whole world's going to go see that twice? And like, and then when you go and you watch it and you do remember the quality, and, that's kind of what you're buying with James Cameron. Like, he could write about anything. He's just going to try to produce the best piece of art he can, make all of his ideas fire on all cylinders, the people acting, the special effects, like everything is thought out. And like you were saying, it spent so much time on this, and he is unique in the fact that he gets to have the luxury of spending that much time on his projects. But he is an interesting outliir in a world where I have always said that the complaints about box offices going down, I will argue with you all the time that, like, oh, I think it's overblown, because every single year the entertainment sector comes out with more, a final tally that's more than the year before. Except for,
not this year or last year, unfortunately. It's actually,
well, no, last year I would argue the recovery coming out of the 2020 thing, where obviously a lot of things died. But when you look at like personal, entertainment, like sales, like TVs and things like that, numbers, if you look at like streaming service numbers, you can see where like the money shifted to a lot of people prepared to spend all that same money, just in a different way. But now this year, this box office, I think I finally have to be like, this is a slow box office. And it is funny to me that after all of these years of people saying the problem is, they're doing like too diverse with these things, and are like, the Marvel films are one of the few things that make money. They're too funny. And now everyone's looking to, the very like homoerotic toned, the first trailer is to a Madonna song comedy that is Deadpool to save the world's box office this year. And I find that interesting.
But in all sincerity, like these movies that are bombing, the studio will end up finding that money in the long run, like from return after like they do get money. Like, I don't understand the money formula for it. It used to be simple. It made this much in box office. It did this much in physical media sales. Now it's this much in box office, this much in streaming revenue. But that doesn't help the theaters. The theaters are shit right now. Like, they're running half mast or having to increase ticket sales. Like, I don't know if theaters are going to last. Like, I firmly believe if something doesn't change quickly, by the end of this year, you're going to start hearing people talk about theaters closing down, like we've been seeing comic shops close down. A lot of the comic shop closing down the last few years was due to the surplus of them opening during the boom. Like, that wasn't that wasn't going to last that excess. But theaters might just be the same thing, just look a little different. You know, like before the whole fiasco of 2020, I would say we were at our theatrical highest point ever. Everyone would go see everything, you know, but now we're at this thing where society has even shifted like that. That 2020 fiasco really changed the zeitgeist of how people just think to do stuff. You know, like money's tough up on people these days. Like everything's more expensive, and people found out they were okay with just not going. You know, we were fine. Like I used to go see everything, and then I wasn't an option, and I was perfectly fine. You know, it's like one of those things. Like you can't imagine living without a cell phone until you do it for a couple of days, and then you're like, I don't remember why I gave a shit. It's literally one of those things. Until they get people in the mood of caring again. I don't know what it's going to take though, man. I hope it's not a dying art form, the theatrical experience. You know what I mean? Because we're always going to have movies, but of what caliber and quality? If they're not making these to present to people in that format, they're not going to look the same. That's why movies made for Netflix don't look like Avatar. You know, like that's why movies made for Disney Plus don't look like Oppenheimer. You know, that's they will not look the same. There's a thing to, like back in the day, like it's so easy to distinguish something made for cinema versus made for television or made to go directly to DVD. Like you can see the difference. If you watch a handful of them, it's easy to picture them. Just like anything made by the British Broadcast Company, you can tell. You don't have to be told. Their production has a certain style, tone, whatever to it outside of the accents, obviously. You just know where it's made. That's what we're going to be stuck with, and it's going to be absolutely terrible.
Well, yeah, like what is now called content because it cannot live up to the high mark, which very much is Avatar. I don't think there's any disagreement, no matter what you think of the content of the Avatar story, the production, it is the state of the art. So like
this hurts my heart right here too. They need to just make a solid hour and a half movie. Who wants to sit in a dark room with a bunch of weird people for 3 hours? Me. People who enjoy the experience of theaters. If you're telling me like, all right, I'm just going to use it. If we have Avatar 2 coming out, you've waited 13 years to dive back into this immersive world with unknown amount of content, characters, tribes to explore. We're going to give you 90 minutes. What? Peter Jackson brings you Lord of the Rings, the most epic fantasy trilogy ever. And we're going to tell it to you in 90 minutes. What? No, man. Give me as much as you can stomach, as much as you can afford to make without sacrificing the quality. I want it all. And I've been like that since I was a kid. Movies never felt long enough. Like, give me, here's Terminator 2. Like, why wasn't it longer? I want more flash forwards into the future. I want more scenes with John in the Terminator, like inspecting his arm or cutting open his head and looking at a CPU and learning how this T800 ticks. Give me more. Show me more of this T1000. Like, I want to see it walk through fire one more time. Like, just what other shape can its arm turn into? There's only time to show me it open the elevator and turn into the. I wanted more. Like, if you're not watching a movie that makes you want more, you're just not watching movies you enjoy.
Yeah, there's something to be said about what type of movie, but yeah, you're totally right. I'm on the side of like my problem with the Hobbit movies where they were too short. So, like, I feel you on that. But like, one thing that I thought was funny is like the Beauty and the Beast movie. When you like, by the time like the movie's wrapping up in the cartoon, in the live action one, you know, she's still, you know, in the middle of Stockholm syndrome. And there's certain things that have better, you know, mileage as a pop song, a little shorter. But I generally I'm on your side of letting directors go nuts. Let Dune be 4 hours.
Yeah, I feel for people that do have to deal with all this stuff. That would ruin it. I have never had that experience, but I have this theory, like, you know, like when I'm excited for a movie, typically I'm going first show I can, like whether it be that Friday night or the Thursday early premiere. And you normally have people that go out of their way to do that, or people that are really excited or passionate to see it as well. And I think that they're more invested in it versus people that have dropped their kids off at the theater so they can just let them hang out there and the surrounding stores. And that's the kind of stuff that would definitely ruin it for me as well. But I also wouldn't put up with it. I would go get an employee and tell them to handle it and to give me a ticket for another show or something like that. And, you know, I wouldn't be a dick about it, but like I'm paying, like, because we don't have, like, some theaters have ushers that come in and out and check and stuff. But yeah. And what's funny about these long movies, if you look up, like, just Google search the greatest movies ever, all of a sudden you find out none of them are 90 minutes. None of them. Like Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, like freaking just everything, like Godfather.
10 Commandments.
10 Commandments, Terminator 2, like Titanic, Avatar. Never are they 90 minutes because you can't change the world in 90 minutes. But you can in 3 hours.
Yeah, when you see like Casablanca's runtime, you do have to be like, you know, like, did the My Little Pony movie really need 2 hours and 10 minutes? If the if
Maybe it depends on
but yeah, all these things definitely mileage may vary.
Yeah, well, I guess we're gonna start winding it down. I appreciate everybody rocking with us. It was a pretty long. Oh yeah, Lawrence of Arabia. That's another one. Cleopatra, Deer Hunter. I mean, Once Upon a Time in America. There's so many long movies, and it's crazy how the ones that hit the list, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Irishman, Wolf of Wall Street. Like, dude, Wolf of Wall Street, a drama about corruption in the stock market. Like, nobody said I wish that was shorter. Shout out to Margot Robbie. You know what I'm saying? Kind of late to the party here, but it really doesn't matter how long a movie is. It's all about how engaging it is and well done. And this is actually a professor at a film university, by the way.
Yeah, 3 hours with Tarantino is like a lot different than, the newest Fast and Furious. One flies by and one, feels like.
Said the British guy, Dr. Von Hoot. Said the British guy, okay? Like there's a little bias in here. Just kidding. But I appreciate everybody coming, hang out, and watching. Again, tomorrow is the DC Comics Deep Dive on Sector 2815's channel. You can just hit the link down in the description, hop over there. Paul and I do a lot of content on his channel as well. This Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. is the live show. Guess that key, where the audience gets to come in, participate, try to guess what key the panelists have brought. Paul is obviously, it's his channel. He hosts it. I co-host it with him. Kevin Vidina, a.k.a. Karate Kevin, a.k.a. Superpower Review, will be returning since his long hiatus, as well as
Blue Hellion Comics.
Dan, aka Blue Hellion Comics. Keep in mind, audience participates. Awesome giveaways that he always has on there. Definitely be there if you can make it. Aggressively Relaxing has his usual backlog of content that you don't want to miss, including grocery stores that cater to vampires.
Yeah, it's my newest short. Check it out.
Also, tomorrow I have a Monday video uploading, of course, in the DC live stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Then Wednesday is the weekly vlog. If you're a channel member, this content is already available to you. Also, if you're a channel member, keep in mind, the first Sunday of next month, we will be drawing for the Legion Loot winner. It'll be the big Deadpool pack celebrating the release of the movie, which will include the first appearance of Deadpool, not a reprint, in a New Mutants 98, as well as I have original artwork from Deadpool artist Mike DeCaro that I've had done when I met him and been sitting on for almost a year now, waiting on this movie to come out. So that'll be framed up, put in a top loader or whatever. And there'll also be some other stuff in there. I got some big time collectibles books that are Deadpool books as well that I made sure to hold back and wait as well. It's going to be a good time. Don't want to miss out on that. So be sure to hit that join button down below. Make sure you check it out. Until next time, as always, I'm Mark, but we are Legion.